What if Abomasnow was in Gen 1 OU? This has been requested a decent amount. Couldn't tell you how much exactly, but it doesn't matter because at least one of you has been requesting this for a while, looking at you, Melon Lord. And the reasoning for why is pretty self-explanatory. It's an ice type. Ice types, just like with psychic types, just having that typing automatically makes the discussion really interesting. Because Abomasnow has not just a freeze immunity, not just a stab blizzard, but that grass typing also gives it a very interesting niche. It gives it a ground resistance, which already makes it very different from the different ice types that are good in OU, being able to resist Rhydon's Earthquake. But along with having Stab Blizzard, it also has Razor Leaf. And with a base 60 speed, it's not always a crit, because you need a base 64 speed, I believe, for a guaranteed crit. But as you can see there, base 60, it is pretty damn close. So it's basically 100% most of the time. You need to be extremely unlucky to not get a crit. And even then, a base 55 Razor Leaf is... It's not like it's not going to hit that hard against a super effective target. And that's what you're mostly using it against anyways. So it has two very good stab moves. And its stats have always been weird to me. They always just looked like random numbers. just like thrown on a screen. And with none of them making it to 100, it's weird and awkward. But thankfully, it is still pretty good for Gen 1 standards. 90 in both attack and special attack is good, higher than Tauros' special. And to be honest, it's pretty close to both Tauros and Starmie's attack and special as well. It's not too bad. The defense is average for the time. The special defense is, again, I'd say average. Pretty good HP. And that speed isn't that bad either. Because with that speed, you're outspeeding Chansey, you're outspeeding Rhydon, Snorlax, Slowbro, but most importantly, you're outspeeding Executor, which is a huge reason why I would say the matchup is as good as it is for you. Because if Executor was faster, then Sleep Powder could be a lot more annoying, but since it isn't, you have a super effective Stab Blizzard you can use on them before Sleep Powder hits, assuming it does hit. So as you can imagine, that's a pretty big deal. And its move pool is pretty good too. Along with Razor Leaf and Blizzard, it has Earthquake, which is both good for Gengar, as well as just having a strong physical move in the first place. It has Sword Stance. I'm not exactly sure if Sword Stance is needed with only one physical move, but I'm going to say probably, because I believe with Sword Stance, it allows you to hit KO Chansey, I think. So you can use other moves, and if you're curious what those are, you have like Double Edge, Leech Seed, Rock Slide, Hyper Beam. Leech Seed kind of sucks in Gen 1. I wouldn't use it. Double Edge has the exact same base power as Earthquake, except you take Recoil, it's not super effective against anything. And also, you can't hit Gengar with it. Wouldn't use that either. Rock Slide, I'm gonna say don't bother. The only things I could think of to use Rock Slide against would be Articuno and Moltres, which are not only not super popular, but I don't think Rock Slide's worth it for Articuno, and you're probably dying to Moltres anyways. Because for those of you who don't know, fire types are kind of strong against Abomasnow. But luckily, Gen 1 is a format where there aren't a lot of them, so Abomasnow doesn't have to worry about that, unlike in other generations. You could technically use Rock Slide for Zapdos, but I guarantee you that Stab Wizard is going to do more. Stab Wizard will do about half to it. I just brain fired a bit trying to think about what the actual damage roll is. And Hyper Beam, you can use it alongside Earthquake, I guess. But I honestly feel like it's just better and more consistent to use Sword Stance instead with just Earthquake. Even if it's just one physical move you're using, I'm gonna say it's probably enough. It also has a light screen, and I think reflect, or no, it doesn't. It only has one of them. That's weird. Yeah, if that's the case, I think this moveset here is probably the best you have. Blizzard, Earthquake, Sword Stance, Razor Leaf. This allows you to hurt pretty much everything in the format. And the only things that don't fear your special moves, you can just use Earthquake for. I guess Articuno would beat this set, but you can probably use other things to handle that. So for the most part, I think it's fine. Its typing's also pretty good, because like I said, ground resistance. You also have a freeze immunity. Even though Blizzard's going to hit you pretty hard, not the worst thing in the world. You have a water immunity technically, but it's not a big deal. But that's only because you super effectively threaten any water type Pokemon in the format. And the only one that might use Surf is Slowbro, exactly. But I don't think Slowbro's gonna risk it against a Abomasnow with an almost guaranteed crit. And electric resistance is also really big. Just helps you out a lot. So overall, even though Abomasnow isn't using its main gimmick of having a weather setting ability, still seems like it has a pretty good niche for itself. I have no doubt that this guy would be OU. It's just a very unique combination of moves, typing, and stats. It's going to have its problems. Fire types could be more popular. Fire Blast Tauros will definitely be more popular. But not a big deal. I think Abomasnow can manage it. So let's just get into the replays now, shall we? Starting off with the boy himself, Tauros. Blizzard does a lot of damage to Tauros. Like a lot of damage. It might even be a 2 KO with a damage range. I forget what it was for the first replay I did. As you can see there, even if it isn't, it just brings Tauros so stupidly low. To the point where Tauros might fear Abomasnow here. But like I said, many Tauros sets will definitely adapt and use Fire Blast instead. And when Fire Blast, it's going to hit pretty hard. Not a guaranteed OHKO. Not even sure if it is an OHKO under any damage range, but not something you want to deal with. In all honesty, I probably should put Tauros in Could Go Either Way, but I'm pretty sure I had it in bad matchups on the tier list. I should probably change that. By the way, I just want to say this now, because I've seen a few comments talking about this. I saw one comment a few days ago, trying to argue that Fire is objectively bad in Gen 1. That is just false. Blatantly false. And I've also seen some people say that, well, Fire Blast on Tauros isn't common anyway, so why even bring it up? Both of those statements are they're just bad takes. I don't think I need to explain why Fire is in fact not objectively terrible. Unlike other typings, it actually has good-ass stab. Not to mention, a 30% chance to burn on Fire Blast is big. The only reason you don't see it more is just because Earthquake on Tauros is better. I'd argue Thunderbolt is probably better as well. And also, just because it can thaw out freezing. Even though Fire is a very powerful type, it has a very powerful status, it's not something you spam. But it absolutely has a good place in the meta. And just because Tauros doesn't use Fire Blast a lot, does not mean you can't roll it out for videos like this. Because Abomasnow is absolutely a Pokemon that Tauros would use Fire Blast for. And that alone would make it way more popular. Sure, with Abomasnow in the format, you could argue that would mean there's more Pokemon getting frozen. But Fire Blast would just make up for that, because it can just annihilate Abomasnow completely. Way more than any of the other ice types, such as Cloyster, Articuno, or Jinx. So, just a bit of a tangent I just had to go through, because some of you guys are underestimating Fire Blast, which you should not do. You will definitely lose a game, eventually, if you do that. But now going on to Snorlax. Snorlax can tank the freeze, or the blizzard, decently. But I think it kind of needs a paralysis in order to win. So I would say Snorlax got pretty lucky here. And also just brace yourself for the Amnesia Lax play. I'm going to put this on fast for now, but I might put this on hyper fast. Because Razor Leaf is always a 4-hit KO, even with crits, which means that Snorlax can stall all of them out with Rest. Which is, I would say Rest is more common on Amnesia Lax sets than not. Because I can't think of an Amnesia Lax set that doesn't actually use Rest. And yeah, I'm going to start putting it on hyper fast because what you're seeing here is most of the replay. Abomasnow can always bring it down to red, but Snorlax can always heal. And it gets even worse for Abomasnow because it has moments where it can potentially miss Razor Leaf or a super rare non-crit. Like I saw there, it missed. And I believe at least once it didn't get a crit. But that in itself should just show just how good the crit rate is for Razor Leaf, where it literally used all 40 of its power points and only once did it not crit. That sounds pretty good. And to be honest, I think making Snorlax use most of its rest power points is really good, I would say. Like, I've definitely seen Pokemon put up a worse fight. And I'm not even sure if it's optimal to just use a whole bunch of Razor Leaves. Would it be better just to go for Earthquakes in that moment? I'm going to assume yes. But for this replay, I didn't. But that's only because I wasn't sure if having Sword Stance and Earthquake would be the optimal set or not. Earthquake, as you saw, only did 17%. So definitely not as good as using Razor Leaf. But what about Sword Stance set? Well, regardless if the Snorlax is a physical attacker or a Amnesia setter, Sword Stance is still very dangerous. It can do a lot of damage to the Snorlax, although you need the 2-hit KO, which definitely means Amnesia Lax can do some damage to you, but I think at most it can only do half. Hyper Beam probably isn't going to be common on Abomasnow, and with 2 Sword Stance, you're already in the 800s. So Snorlax can go for 1 or 2, maybe bring down Abomasnow to half health, but then I'm pretty sure the Abomasnow will just win. So as you can tell from those replays, Abomasnow and Snorlax could go either way. Can't really say the same for Chansey, because what are Chansey's main moves? Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, and Seismic Toss. None of which Abomasnow really cares about. Ice Beam, you just can't freeze Abomasnow, so that sucks if you're a Chansey player. So the most Chansey can do is just try to stall it out. But if what I'm predicting is true, and most Abomasnow sets will have Sword Stance, Abomasnow can easily set up 2 and fight off a Chansey, since Chansey can't threaten it enough. And if that's the case, Chansey cannot do anything really. So overall, against all 3 of the big 3, Abomasnow has a pretty good matchup against them, which is already pretty good. But it gets even better with some other Pokemon. Now for Zam, both your special moves and your physical moves already do decent damage to Zam. As you can see there, that's already pretty decent. I think Razor Wave might do a little bit more, I don't remember. But as you can see, Earthquake definitely did a lot of damage. And with just 1 Sword Stance, you have what it takes to beat the Alakazam. Though granted, you can still get fully parried, special drops, or just get crit. Not to mention with special drops, Abomasnow really doesn't like those more than others, because along with just making it easier to hit specially, it also means your Blizzards hit less. On the bright side, your Razor Waves still do the exact same, because crits ignore all stat drops. And Cloyster can't do much to you. Theoretically, it can Clamp Lock you into submission, but Clamp Lock is just kind of inaccurate, and Abomasnow has super effective Razor Leaf. So why on earth would you ever try to Clamp Lock the Abomasnow? What benefit do you have there, really? There's not much, to be honest. So only in a last resort, but even then, since Abomasnow resists it, it's going to have plenty of opportunities for you to miss. And I think an Abomasnow waiting for you to miss twice isn't the most unrealistic thing in the world. And Executor. As you can see there, Blizzard does half, so there's not even a reason to make any other replay, because if there's no Sleep Clause, the Exeggutor is just screwed. I guess with a special drop, it can do a little bit better, since the Abomasnow will only be able to 3-hit KO. But that's still a heck of a lot of damage on Exeggutor. And Exeggutor doesn't have lefties, so most of the time, any damage you take with it, it's permanent. And then Gengar. Abomasnow does not care about Thunderbolt, so you have Nightshade, I guess. But the only thing you have going for you is hitting Hypnosis, which is risky because Abomasnow's Earthquake hits pretty hard. So I'm going to say that's a good matchup for Abomasnow. And then for Jolteon. Oh, poor Jolteon. I'm still going to do what I promised you guys I would do and make replays for all of the Pokemon. But good golly, most of the time Jolteon is the one that has like the least to offer. Not always. Sometimes, like I recently did a video where Jolteon strangely had the best matchup out of all the OU Pokemon. It was weird. And for this replay, Jinx got incredibly unlucky. However, I've definitely seen enough of these replays to tell you that both Blizzard and Psychic would be around a... I think Psychic would be a 3-hit KO. So even if we ignore Sleep Clause altogether, which by the way, with Sleep Clause, Jinx just solos 1v1. Blizzard hits way too hard. But outside of that, both of them just 3-hit KO each other. So it could go either way. Abomasnow is tankier, but Jinx hits harder. But to be honest, with 92 special, it's not that much different from Jinx's 95 special. Now, Rhydon certainly tried. He tried his best, and we have to give him medal for that, because Rhydon is cool. Not cool enough to survive a Abomasnow, but still pretty cool. You should like him. And Swellow doesn't really do that much better. I guess it can paralyze the Abomasnow, but what does it do after that? Rest and try to hope Abomasnow gets 3 paralysis in a row? That's not gonna happen, champ. The Swellow is gonna die no matter what. Unless you're weird and you put the Fire Blast on it, specifically for Abomasnow. And if you did that, that's hilarious. And you know what? Starmie also doesn't do that much better. Because it can paralyze the Abomasnow, maybe hit with a Critical Blizzard, get a special drop, but it's not enough. Razor Leaf can still kill, even with a recover. So yeah, that's one of the best Pokemon in the format, now just being taken down a notch. I want to say that that might be enough to make Starmie drop from the 4th best Pokemon in the tier, but Exeggutor is also just losing pretty hard against Abomasnow, so I don't even know what would happen. But last but not least, we have Zapdos. And I was surprised with how much damage these guys can do to each other. Drellpeck is a 2-hit KO, but so is Blizzard. So it's just an absolutely brutal fight, where the only real victor is either a crit or one of them's paralyzed. But even then, Zapdos goes for agility a lot, so I'm not even sure if that's true. But overall, here is the tier list. Tauros probably should be brought back and that could go either way, but it feels weird having nothing in bad matchups. So, let's see here. What's you? You're now in bad matchups now. Congratulations. But yeah, here's the tier list. I don't think there's anything weird going on here. This is how my tier lists always work. Sorry. But yeah, Abomasnow is doing really good for himself. Because if we're ignoring the... let's just call this the problem area. It is just... it doesn't really have any bad matchups against any of the OU Pokemon. The only one it might have a bad matchup against, or unwinnable per se, is Tauros with Fire Blast. But that's about it. That's extremely manageable. So Abomasnow was so much better than I thought it would have been. I already thought it was going to be OU, but I didn't think it was going to have no bad matchups outside of this area right here, but we can just ignore this. But yeah, what do you think? Do you think Abomasnow would be the best ice type in the tier? Or do you think both Cloyster and Jinx would have some advantages over it? Do you think Lapras does anything at all? Does Articuno become better? And how would Mega Abomasnow do? Because now I'm willing to put on the table doing remix videos with their Mega Evolutions. And Mega Abomasnow, with its increased stats, would probably be a little bit better. But I'd love to see what you guys think. Thank you all for watching. This is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.